Pleased to welcome to the program a gentleman who is an author of the book The Seven Rings. He's also the founder and CEO of North Star Commercial Partners here in the Denver metro area. That's a commercial real estate investment company, privately held, headquartered right here in Denver. And his name is Brian Watson. I'm pleased to welcome him in a sort of a business spotlight segment here on Business for Breakfast, although he also heads up an organization called Opportunity Coalition, does a lot of things, and I'm pleased to welcome Brian Watson to Business for Breakfast. Good morning, Brian. How you doing?
Good morning, Jimmy. Thanks for having me on your show.
And, you know, we're broadcasting from KDMT 1690 and right in one of the North Star buildings.
You got to have that disclosure out there. I like it.
I thought I'd just say that for you. So there we go.
I appreciate that.
But good morning. How are you doing today?
Doing great. Looking forward to a wonderful day.
You know, it's another beautiful day here in Colorado, and so let's talk about a few of your different projects. I mean, there's so many different things we can talk about, but I want to narrow in, since this is what we call our Business Spotlight segment, I want to talk about North Star Commercial Partners for a few moments. Tell us a little bit about the process that goes into founding and then developing an investment company like this that deals with commercial real estate, because obviously it's very interesting when you're a business owner, for example. You are consistently working with folks that are involved in your line of work, such as, you know, owning a building that a radio station might be in or that kind of a thing. What can you tell us about your business and kind of what's developed over time?
Absolutely. Well, you know, I came from a family of entrepreneurs, and so we always discussed around the dinner table at night what company would you might go out and start. And so I grew up in the Western Slope over in Olathe and got a degree in real estate at CU Boulder and then was a broker for a number of years. But I always wanted to have my own company. And so I founded North Star Commercial Partners 17 years ago, and we are headquartered here in Denver, as you state, and we own assets now in 18 states throughout America. And so our specialty is going in and buying vacant buildings and turning those buildings around and getting them leased up and creating jobs and opportunity and empowering people in those buildings. And so we buy everything from office buildings to industrial buildings and retail buildings, and even do some development around the country as well.
When you talk about empowering people, why is that important in your mind? I mean, that word empower is a powerful word, pardon the pun.
Yeah, well, you know, I've got to travel a good part of the world in my life, and I always tell people, you know, the United States of America, we have won the historical lottery of all time to live where and when and how we do in this country. And I think it really starts with this idea of opportunity, no matter who you are, no matter where you are, to be able to go out and get an education, to get a job and provide opportunity for your family. And I think it creates empowerment, this idea of not only putting bread on the table, but being able to send your kids to school and to go achieve your dreams, whatever that might look like. And for us, you know, commercial real estate is a part of that. You know, no matter where you are right now, the things that are in your room, they were maybe manufactured by somebody, and hopefully it was in the United States. And someone who came in and probably did the janitorial work, and whatever it might be, those people needed space. And so that's what we focus on, is taking these vacant buildings and turning them into productive work environments where people can go achieve those dreams and opportunity and empower themselves.
Now, you mentioned 18 states that your company has a presence in, owns its property in, and so forth. How does Colorado compare, generally speaking, to other states as far as being a pro-business environment or a business-friendly environment?
Well, Colorado is one of the top right now in the country. And, you know, when you say the word Colorado, a lot of the, you know, economy right now that's doing extremely well is in the Front Range, and then specifically Denver. Obviously, we have a much larger state at hand, and not all of the state is doing as economically well as the Denver metro area. And we need to make sure that we focus on, you know, a lot of the communities all throughout the state. But in general, Colorado is a very favorable business environment. You know, most young people that I meet around the country, when they graduate college or want to move out of the home or whatever it might be, they want to come to a place like Colorado. And so I think that we have a very, very positive outlook for the future. We've got phenomenal entrepreneurs that are starting new companies and creating opportunity, and I'm very excited about it. Do we need to work on some things like taxes and making sure that we're even more business friendly? Absolutely. But in general, it's very positive right now.
We're talking with Brian Watson. He's founder and CEO of North Star Commercial Partners here, based here in Denver, Colorado. What is the biggest challenge in your mind that is facing right now the commercial real estate industry and the investment side of things?
Well, I think one of the main issues is things are becoming more expensive all the time. And, in Denver, for instance, things like construction costs have gone up, well over 30%. And as you have more demand on that product, how can you create those work environments at an affordable cost to be able to attract the tenants that you need to? And so it's things like that that you really need to watch out for, especially where we are in the investment cycle right now. There are definitely markets throughout the country that if you want to use a baseball analogy that might be in the eighth or ninth inning, and there's other markets that are in the fourth and fifth inning. I would say, again, Denver has some good legs for the next number of years, but the costs have gone up, and frankly, as costs go up, the risks go up as well. If you're starting a new construction project right now, it's going to take you 18 months to 24 months to finish that. And if the market has changed in that time frame, you may be on the higher end of that risk curve. So I would say cost and just what does that look like in terms of where we are in the cycle right now.
You've been in business here at North Star for 17 years, you noted. That's when you founded the company. So in your 17 years of running a business, obviously you have had other experiences prior to founding North Star Commercial Partners. But in your experience over the last 17 years, what would you say are the top 2 or 3 lessons that you've learned about entrepreneurship and the acumen that's required in order to be successful at business?
There's so many lessons that I've learned, and I think the primary one is that it's about relationships. And that takes a multi-pronged approach, but it's this idea of focusing on good quality relationships and following through on your word and making sure those bonds, are maintained over many years. Also, as an entrepreneur, people look at you maybe after a number of years and say, oh, look at that person. That must have been easy. And I will say that entrepreneurship is one of the hardest things that are out there. I can't tell you how many times that, my wife and I never took any type of compensation and made sure that the company and the employees were paid first. And it's this idea of being committed, and even to the point where you always have to have self-sacrifice, whether it be for your deals or your employees. And so it's not for everybody because there are hard times. But I would say with those hard times, there's also some amazing, wonderful times in terms of creating those jobs and creating a family environment and helping to set a vision and then following through on that vision. So, I wouldn't trade it for anything. I absolutely love being an entrepreneur and seeing opportunity and creating that opportunity for others. But it's not easy.
Number one piece of advice you might give to those folks who are looking at starting up a business or who are in the early stages of business, what would that be?
I would say follow your dreams. I think at the end of the day, there's this seed that might be within you, and you have an idea. And seek out the counsel and wisdom of others. And after you think about it and plan, go out and try it. Success is not final and failure is not fatal. That's a little quote that I keep inside my binder. I found it when I was in high school, and I've kept it to this day. And it's this idea that, yes, you can go out and try it. And if worse comes to worse, it doesn't work, but at least you tried. And I think that's a really important part, and I think that helps for your overall fulfillment of whatever that might look like for you.
Share that quote one more time. I really enjoyed that.
Success is not final, and failure is not fatal. And I think that, specifically the second part of that, the failure is not fatal part, even if you get knocked down, you get back up. I grew up, as I said, on the Western Slope, but if I got bucked off a horse, which happened from time to time, my parents always encouraged me to get back on that horse as soon as I could. Because if you didn't, you'd develop a fear of that horse where you'd never want to be around horses again. Using that metaphor in business or in life, we're all going to get knocked down. During the down economy, as I shared in my book, The Seven Rings, I got knocked down. It was a painful, painful time when real estate values plummeted by 80% in some areas, and it was bloody. But you know what? You get back up and you figure out, okay, well, I got the wind knocked out of me. It was a painful time. What do I need to do to create more opportunity and to provide for my family and other families? And those are some of the greatest lessons in life.
Again, we're talking with Brian Watson, who is, as he mentioned, author of the book, The Seven Rings. I'll get to that in just a moment. I want to also emphasize the first part because you're so right about the significance of failure not being fatal and needing to get back up on the horse and keep riding forward. But also the success is not final. What I really like about that, it makes me think I'm a big blues fan, and I love Stevie Ray Vaughan and Albert King, two legendary blues musicians. And there was an in-session recording that was done in the late 1980s where Stevie Ray Vaughan went into a studio with Albert King, and Albert King was playing with him, and Stevie's like one of the most exceptional guitarists that has ever played, God rest his soul. And so when I was watching that, and they have a conversation midway through, and Albert King is telling Stevie, you're good, but you're going to be better. You got to keep working. Don't let it get to your head. You got to keep working because you're going to be even better. Success is not final. You're absolutely right.
We can all get better, and every single day we learn something new. And, I always say that there's two things you can learn from every single person you meet in this world. What you want to emulate in your own life and what you might want to avoid in your own life. But there's so much to learn and to get better at. There's this one book that I was reading about, how you become an expert in something, and you got to spend 10,000 hours in something, and then you start becoming an expert. Well, even when you become an expert in that one thing, whatever it might be, there's still things to learn to make you better. And so I think it's a constant journey that we're on, and not to define ourselves by maybe the worldly success of things, but to say, I'm on this journey. How can I better myself? How can I love and bless others and make a positive impact in this world? And so that's what I really like that quote, because you got both sides of it. With success and also looking at failure from a different perspective.
I think I'm going to keep that one in mind for sure. Again, Brian Watson is the author of the book, The Seven Rings, and I want to talk about that for just a moment. It is subtitled A Journey to a Balanced Life of Peace, Passion, and Purpose. I like the triple P's as opposed to, other alphabetical letters, because P just sounds like one of those things where you really have such powerful words that often come with that letter. I mean, maybe I'm out in la la land just thinking about the first letter of a word, but there's something about so many of the words like peace, passion, and purpose that you can find from that letter that I just find to be significant. What exactly is a journey to that type of an attitude and that type of a perspective where you're looking at peace, passion, and purpose? What is involved in that kind of a journey?
Well, I think it's just that. It's a journey, and people may define that as different things for themselves. When I wrote this book, I didn't write it to make money. 100% of the net sales proceeds from this book are being given away to charity. I wrote it because I had developed these 7 rings in my life, and a lot of it is lessons that I've learned from others all around, all different kinds of people. And I really said, you know what, we're all kind of going through this, and where are we going, and what does that look like as a journey? And to have peace and passion and purpose in your life, I think, is one of those human ideals that we want to have. We don't want to be spinning our wheels for nothing. We don't want to reach the top of a mountain and realize that we're all alone with no relationships. And so I shared these ideas in this book really as an encouragement. I am very clear that I don't have all the answers for sure. I'm going through this journey myself, but I've learned a few golden nuggets that I just wanted to share and encourage people and come alongside them with what I've learned, and hopefully they can apply it to their lives in some way.
I know we were talking about the quote of success is not final, failure is not fatal. What's one other of those keys or those rings that the key lessons that you share in the book?
Well, it's this idea of, again, going back to this journey, and one of the things I share in the book is this idea of these 7 rings of prioritization in your life. And I think I encourage people to consider what does that look like for them, because if you don't understand the priorities in your life, when different things happen to you, it would cause frustration or you wouldn't be able to act on them. I personally want to be more proactive in my life versus reactive, and stuff is going to happen to us. And if all we're doing in life is reacting to everything that happens to us and not being proactive and being an architect of our life, I think it's quite challenging at the end of the day.
We're talking with Brian Watson here on Business for Breakfast, KDMT, Denver's Money Talk, 1690 AM. He's author of the book, The Seven Rings. He's the founder and CEO of North Star Commercial Partners, but he's also the founder and CEO of the Opportunity Coalition. A very interesting group, because what you do is you have monthly events where you bring in very just fascinating speakers, people who are often big namers but sometimes not, and that really can bring their perspective on business, on life, on a variety of different things. And I think you have your next meeting. Is it tonight?
It is tonight with Paul Andrews, the CEO of the National Western Stock Show.
So when we talk about Opportunity Coalition, what exactly is it about, and why that name, Opportunity Coalition?
Well, as I said, I grew up on the Western Slope, and I went to school here on the Front Range, and have helped my businesses over here. And, I ran for office a number of years ago. And in that process, I realized that the state was pretty disconnected. I mean, there are people that were just in politics or in philanthropy or business or academia, and, they just weren't speaking to each other on a regular basis. And so I was blessed with just knowing a bunch of people, and I thought, you know what, even though I lost that race, wouldn't it be interesting to start building bridges and breaking down barriers among people throughout the entire state, no matter of economic status or, education, background, whatever it might be, just build bridges and break down those barriers. And to also support this thing called entrepreneurship and capitalism and free markets. And so I founded the Opportunity Coalition a number of years ago. You're right, we have a monthly speaker that comes in and shares their golden nuggets of wisdom for whatever it is they do, and hopefully that encourages others and applies in their life in some way. And then we also just started a TV show called Mountains of Opportunity. And it's this idea, originally that was recommended that it should be called Opportunity Peaks. Well, to me, that's limiting opportunity. I think opportunity can be endless for people. And so we go around the state and we find entrepreneurs and share positive stories of what they're doing and with their employees and everything. And it's just to create, again, these bonds throughout the state.
And what's interesting here, I'm looking at the schedule. OpportunityCoalition.com is the website, and you've got Pete Coors coming up in May.
We do. The Coors family has contributed so much to the landscape of Colorado, not only from a business perspective, but from philanthropy and a host of other things. And so I've known Pete for a number of years, and so it's going to be interesting to have him come in and share some of those golden nuggets that he and his family have learned over the years as well.
Yeah, but the real highlight is in June, Joe Ellis, Chairman, President, CEO of the Denver Broncos. I mean, that's the real
Broncos.
Highlight.
Exactly. And I'll tell you what, I told people that I don't want to see any other jerseys from any other teams that night in the Opportunity Coalition. We're encouraging and we want to build bonds. But that night, it's all about our Broncos.
Oh,
so
man.
Looking forward to that one.
So I can't wear my New York Giants jersey with Eli Manning.
Ooh, I'll tell you. Maybe not that night. I'll tell you.
There we go. So, Brian Watson, but before we let you go, what is one final thought that you'd want to share with those folks who are listening today, who are very much entrepreneurial and who are looking at the prospect of, hey, you know what, I'm thinking about starting a business. I just haven't done it yet. Obviously, we talked about following your dreams, but what's a sort of a little piece of advice or word of wisdom?
Yeah, what I would say to them is that the world needs you. And if you have an idea that can help contribute, whether it's a product or service or whatever it is, and it's something that's been kind of burning inside you for a while, go out and try it, because the world may need that product or service to really help in so many ways. And you're part of that field of play. And it doesn't have to be Google or some huge company. It could be something small where you're the only employee, or you might hire one employee. But go follow your dreams and be encouraged by it. It's not easy, but it's extremely rewarding, and you just never know where that path is going to take you.
Brian Watson, founder and CEO of North Star Commercial Partners, as well as Opportunity Coalition, and author of the book, The Seven Rings. Thanks so much for joining us here on Business for Breakfast this morning. Great conversation.
Thanks for having me on, Jimmy. Appreciate all the great work you do.
Thank you very much. We'll be back here on Business for Breakfast, KDMT, Denver's Money Talk, 1690 AM.